daang raccoons ang nagdagsaan sa bakuran ng isang babae sa Estados Unidos.
Ang tanong, meron kayang malalim na dahilan ng pagtitipon itong mga raccoons na ito sa labas ng bahay? Mga detalye ng balita, ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Miyerkules ng gabi.
Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. dumalo sa 44th and 45th ASEAN Summit and related summits.
Pilipinas at Vietnam mas papalalimin pa ang economic cooperation sa sidelines ng ASEAN Summit.
Hurricane Milton tatama sa Tampa Bay area bilang Category 5 storm.
Social media platform na X may access ng muli sa bansang Brazil.
At American singer-songwriter Olivia Rodrigo kinilala bilang Touring Artist of the Year ng Billboard. Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at First Lady Liza Marcos kasama ang ibang leaders ng bansa bilang mga observers sa pagbubukas ng 44th at 45th ASEAN Summits and related summit.
Ginanap ang opening ceremony ng summit sa National Convention Center sa Vientiane, Lao People's Republic o People's Democratic Republic. Tatagal ng 3 araw ang naturang pagpupulong kung saan ay may temang enhancing connectivity and resilience. Kabilang sa mga isyong tatalakayin sa pagpupulong ay ang sitwasyon sa Myanmar, Ukraine, Korean Peninsula, Gaza at iba pang geopolitical challenges na nakaaapekto sa Indo-Pacific region. Sa panahon naman, ang back-to-back summit ay inaasahan na pagtitibayan ng 82 outcome documents.
Sa kaugnay na balita, lalong palyalalimin ng Pilipinas at ng Vietnam ang kanilang ugnayan, partikular na sa economic cooperation. Nagkita sina Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh sa sidelines ng ASEAN Summit sa Laos. Nagsagawa ng bilateral meeting ang dalawang leaders ng bansa para mas palawigin ang trade and agriculture sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at ng Vietnam. Ayon sa Presidential Communications Office, kapwa nagpahayag ang dalawang pinuno ng kanilang commitment na ipagdiwang ang 10th anniversary ng Philippines-Vietnam Strategic Partnership sa darating na taong 2025. Ipinaabot din ni Pangulong Marcos ang kanyang pakikiramay sa mga nasawi mula sa pananalasa ng Typhoon Yagi sa Taiwan at sa pagpanaw rin ni General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong.
Muling dumami ang bilang ng mga Chinese vessels na namataan sa ilang features ng West Philippine Sea o WPS ayon sa Philippine Navy. Batay sa monitoring ng Navy mula September 30 hanggang October 6 ay umakyat ang bilang ng Chinese vessels sa WPS sa 190 mula sa bilang ng 178 nitong makalipas na linggo. 28 sa mga barkong ito ay People's Liberation Army, Chinese Navy at mga China Coast Guard vessels. Ang mga barkong ito ay nakaistasyon sa Ayungin, Sabina Shoals at Bajo de Masinloc. Binigyan din ng Navy na ang 3 features na nabanggit ay mahalagang bahagi ng exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas. Muli naman pinagtibay ng Navy ang commitment ng Armed Forces of the Philippines sa pagpapanatili ng kapayapaan sa rehiyon sa pamamagitan ng pagsulong ng international law at pagdepensa sa territorial integrity ng Pilipinas.
Ibababa ng National Food Authority o NFA ang presyo ng palay sa susunod na linggo. Ayon kay Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr., mula sa 27 pesos kada kilo ay magiging 23 pesos per kilo ang presyo ng palay. Sinabi rin ng kalihim na ipapaalam muna ito sa mga magsasaka bago ito ipatupad para hindi sila magulat. Giit naman ni Laurel na kahit mababa ang presyo ng pagbili ng palay ay kikita pa rin ang mga magsasaka. Tinukoy din ng kalihim na magsisimula namang bumaba ang presyo ng bigas simula sa kalagitnaan ng buwan ng Oktubre ngayong taon. Inihalimbawa ni Laurel na kung ang kasalukuyang presyo ng kada kilo na bigas ay nasa 50 pesos, ay dapat bumaba ito sa 45 pesos per kilo sa susunod na buwan. Una nang tinukoy ni Secretary Laurel sa pagdinig sa Senado na mararamdaman ang full effect na mas murang presyo ng bigas sa January 2025.
Nasabat naman ng Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency o PDEA ang isang parcel na naglalaman ng higit sa 100 milyong pisong halaga ng shabu sa NAIA. Ayon sa PDEA, natagpuan ng kanilang mga ahente kasama ang NAIA Interagency Drug Task Force ang kontrabando na nakatago sa loob ng wax na ibahagi ng isang padala na naglalaman ng liham o 5 handmade paintings sa isang cargo warehouse. Ang kabuoang bigat ng nasabing kontrabando ay higit sa 16 na kilo. Dagdag ng PDEA, ang parcel ay idineklarang handmade cultural craft paintings na ipinadala mula Mexico at nakapangalan sa isang lalaking mula sa Bulacan. Ang mga ebidensya ay dinala sa tanggapan ng PDEA para sa wastong dokumentasyon at disposisyon.
Walang aktibong kaso ng Q fever sa Pilipinas, ayon po yan sa Department of Agriculture o DA. Ang Q fever ay isang zoonotic disease na dulot ng Coxiella burnetii bacteria. Ito po ay naipapasa sa tao sa pamamagitan ng contact sa mga infected na hayop o sa kanilang excretes o body fat breathing fluids. Noong June 21 ay nagpositibo sa mga confirmatory tests ng DA ang mga buhay na kambing na dumating sa Pilipinas mula sa Estados Unidos. Subalit, niliwanag naman ni DA Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa na wala nang naitalang karagdagang kaso ng Q fever ang kanilang ahensya. Mula po yan sa 74 na imported na kambing na nasa secluded farm sa Pampanga at sa Marinduque.
Susunod, North Korea puputulin na ang mga daan at riles na konektado sa South Korea.
U.S. President Joe Biden inaasahang makikipag-usap kay Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu ukol sa posibleng pag-atake sa Iran.
At Florida, patuloy ang paghahanda sa parating na Hurricane Milton. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by
Why choose?
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Iniulat ng North Korea na puputulin nito ang mga kalsada at riles ng tren papunta sa South Korea. Ayon sa Korean People's Army, palalakasin nila ang kanilang depensa sa kanilang border at maglalagay sila ng matitibay na istruktura upang madepensahan ang kanilang mga nasasakupan. Sinabi ng Pyongyang na gagawin nila ito bilang tugon sa mga military exercises na isinasagawa ng South Korea at Estados Unidos sa Korean Peninsula. Giit ng Korean People's Army na papadalas na rin ang pagbisita ng Estados Unidos sa mga strategic assets nito sa Asia.
2 tao ang kumpirmadong patay at higit sa 30 iba pang sugatan sa mga pag-atake ng Russia sa Kharkiv sa Ukraine. 4 na guided bombs ang inihulog ng Russia sa Kharkiv nitong Martes ng hapon. Ayon kay Kharkiv Governor Ole Sinyehupov, isang lalaki at isang babae ang nasawi habang naglalakad sa kalsada. Samantala, 28 tao ang natagpo ang sugatan sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Ukraine at nasunog din ang isang pabrika dahil sa pag-atake ng Russia.
Tinalakay ni Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov at Burkina Faso Prime Minister Apollinaire Keilem de Tambela ang pagpapalawak ng kanilang ugnayang militar. Nagkita ang dalawang leader sa Moscow upang pag-usapan ito. Noong buwan ng Hunyo, iniulat ng Moscow na nagpapadala ito ng karagdagang supply at mga military instructors sa Burkina Faso upang palakasin umano ang kakayahan ng bansa na ipagtanggol ang sarili nito at labanan ang terorismo. Ayon sa mga political analysts, lumalaki ang kompetisyon ng Russia at ng West para sa pagpapalawak ng kanilang impluwensya sa Africa sa pamamagitan ng military, diplomacy at economy.
Iniulat ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na 2 successors ni Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah ang napatay sa isang airstrike.
We've degraded Hezbollah's capabilities. We took out thousands of terrorists, including Nasrallah himself, and Nasrallah's replacement, and the replacement of his replacement. Today, Hezbollah is weaker than it's been for many, many years. Now you, the Lebanese people, you stand at a significant crossroads. It is your choice. You can now take back your country. You can return it to a path of peace and prosperity. If you don't, Hezbollah will continue to try to fight Israel from densely populated areas at your expense.
Kinumpirma ni Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant ang sinabi ni Netanyahu at inihayag niya na napatay nila si Hashem Safieddine, ang itinuturing na susunod na leader ng Hezbollah. Inilabas ng Israel ang balitang ito matapos magbigay ng pahiwatig ng Hezbollah na bukas ito sa isang ceasefire agreement.
Samantala, noong Lunes, lumikas na naman ang displaced Gazans na nasa Khan Yunis. Ito ay dahil sa pagpapalakas ng Israel ng opensiba nito sa ere at sa lupa upang atakihing lalo ang mga militanteng Hamas at command posts nito. Cherry Recolizado po para sa balita.
Ang eskalasyon ng pag-atake ng Israel ay sa araw ng anibersaryo ng giyera na sumira na ng halos buong teritoryo at tuluyang bumago sa pamumuhay ng mga Palestino. Nag-utos ang Israeli Army nang muling lumikas ang mga residente ng Khan Yunis sa southern Gaza. Sumunod naman ang maraming pamilya at sinimulang ikarga ang kanilang mga gamit sa donkey carts at rickshaws. Sinabi ng Israeli Army na pinatay nito ang 12-dosenang militante at sinira ang infrastruktura ng militar sa Jabalia. Ayon sa Israeli Army, tuloy-tuloy ang operasyon upang mapigilang mag-regroup ang Hamas. Ang Jabalia ang pinakamalaki sa 8 makasaysayang urban refugee camp sa Gaza. Si Ayat Abu Anza ay displaced Palestinian, kailangan niyang ilikas ang kanyang mga anak na babae. Pagkatapos ay babalikan niya ang kanyang anak na lalaki na hindi niya alam kung buhay pa o patay na.
صاروا اليهود يرموا علينا قذائف وطلعنا وتوقفنا ماشيين يعني في ناس نازحه لسه وناس بتمشي عنده ترومبه قصفين له ترومبه وهي مولع نار وما حدش عارف ايش فيه والله ابني غاد مش عارف ايش صار فيه مات طيب مش عارف بدي أمن على بناتي وأروح أشوف. والله ما إحنا قادرين، والله ما إحنا قادرين. أنا هنا على سجن الزواج، مو لنا نروح ولا مكان آمن. ما فيش حد حس فينا ولا حدا مدور عليه.
Isinalaysay ng isa pang displaced Palestinian na si Rawaa Abu Jamea na kung ilang beses na silang lumikas. Anya, wala nang ligtas na lugar na natitira sa teritoryo.
احنا كنا في مدرسة مقصوفة في بنسهيلة مقصوفة، مدرسة مدمرة أصلا ومش صالحة للبنات آدمين، بس كنا قاعدين لأننا مش لاقيين مكان. فجأة لما بحكوا إخلاء نزل هذا الناس بتجري، صرنا نجري مع اللي بيجروا، وجينا هنا مش عارفين وين نروح، ما لقيناش مكان، ومكان اللي كنا فيه مش آمن، واللي احنا أصلا أساسا فيش مكان في قطاع غزة أساسا آمن.
Samantala, sinabi naman ng Hamas na inatake nito ang Tel Aviv na kabiserang pangkalakalan ng Israel. Dalawa ang sinabing nasaktan. Cherry Recolisado para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Inaasahang makikipag-usap si U.S. President Joe Biden kay Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ukol sa anumang mga plano ng Israel na umatake sa Iran. Tumataas ang tensyon sa Middle East dahil sa hinihintay na posibleng tugon ng Israel sa isang missile attack mula sa Iran noong nakaraang linggo. Nangako si Prime Minister Netanyahu na pagbabayaran ng Iran ang kanilang missile attack sa Israel at sinabi naman ng Tehran na kung aatake man ng Israel ay babawi rin sila at ito ay magiging malawakang pagkawasak ng Israel. Hindi pa kinukumpirma o itinatanggi ng Washington ang pagpupulong na nangyayari sa pagitan ni Netanyahu at Biden. Binisita ni United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees o UNHCR Filippo Grandi ang Syria-Lebanon border noong Biyernes. Doon sinabi nitong maglulungsad ang UNHCR ng isang apela para sa pondong gagamitin upang rumisponde sa krisis ng paglikas dulot ng labanan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hezbollah sa Lebanon. Si Chantel Santos para sa karagdagang detalye.
Ayon kay UNHCR Filippo Grandi, ang apilang ilulungsad ng organisasyon ay upang makakalap ng kailangang pondo na tutugon sa sitwasyon ng displacement sa Lebanon ngayon at sa mga darating na mga araw.
Tonight, in Damascus, I will launch a funding appeal for donors to help us respond to the situation and to give us the necessary funds to address the situation now and in the next few months.
Dagdag ni Grandi, ang paulit-ulit na pag-atake ng Israel sa pangunahing borders nito sa Lebanon ay nagdulot ng pagdalang ng pasok ng mga taong lumilikas.
After that airstrike that interrupted the flow, it's more difficult for people to cross, but there has been an organization to facilitate, thanks to the Red Crescent, for people to continue also by bus, and their volunteers are helping people transport their goods across the border.
Ayon sa Health Ministry ng Lebanon, higit sa 2,000 tao na ang namamatay at halos 10,000 na ang sugatan dahil sa isang taong labanan na lumala nitong nakaraang 2 linggo. Ayon naman sa Israel, may 50 sibilyan at sundalo na ang namamatay. Batay sa pinakahuling ulat ng UNHCR noong 6 ng Oktubre, may 220,000 na mga tao na ang tumawid mula Lebanon papuntang Syria nang magka-eskalasyon ang labanan. Chantel Santos para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sinabi po ni United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres na kung isa sa batas ang isang panukala ng Israel na harangin ang UN Palestinian Refugee Agency o UNRWA na papasok sa Gaza Strip at sa West Bank, ito ay mauuwi sa sakuna. Narito po ang report ni Mayfan Zaragoza.
Dahil sa nagbabadyang sakuna, sakaling maisabatas ang Israeli draft law na harang sa operasyon ng UNRWA sa Gaza Strip at West Bank, nagbabala si UN Chief Antonio Guterres na magiging sakuna ito. Dagdag ni Guterres, pinarating niya ang kanyang mga pangamba ukol dito kay Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
A record number, including so many members of our UN family, have paid with their lives. The vast majority of those killed were part of the backbone of humanitarian relief operations in Gaza, UNRWA. In the midst of all the upheaval, UNRWA, more than ever, is indispensable. UNRWA, more than ever, is irreplaceable. That is why I've written directly to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to express profound concern about draft legislation that could prevent UNRWA from continuing its essential work in the occupied Palestinian territory. Such a measure would suffocate efforts to ease human suffering and tensions in Gaza and indeed the entire occupied Palestinian territory. It would be a catastrophe in what is already an unmitigated disaster. Let's be clear in practical terms what such a measure would mean. Operationally, the legislation will likely deal a terrible blow to the international humanitarian response in Gaza. UNRWA's activities are integral to that response. It's not feasible to isolate one UN agency from the others.
Noong Hulyo, nagbigay ng paunang pagpayag ang Israel Parliament sa panukalang batas na magdedeklara sa UNRWA bilang isang terrorist organization. Inakusahan ng mga leader ng Israel na nakikipagsabuatan ang staff ng UNRWA sa mga militanteng Hamas sa Gaza. Noong Agosto, sinabi ng United Nations na 9 na staff ng UNRWA ay maaaring sangkot sa pag-atake sa Hamas sa Israel noong 7 ng Oktubre 2023. Ang 9 na ito ay nasisante na. Sinasabing ang Hamas commander sa Lebanon ay napatay noong nakaraang buwan sa isang Israeli strike at napatunayang nagtatrabaho sa UNRWA. Ang UNRWA ay nagbibigay ng edukasyon, tulong pangkalusugan at aid sa milyon-milyong Palestinians sa Gaza, West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon at Syria. Matagal na itong iringan sa Israel na lumalala nang magsimula ang giyera sa Gaza. Matagal na ring nananawagan ang Israel na kalasin na ang UNRWA. Humarap si Guterres sa mga mamamahayag sa araw ng unang anibersaryo ng pag-atake ng Hamas sa Israel na ikinamatay ng may 1,200 katao, ikinadukot ng may 250 bihag. At sa kasulukuyan, may 100 hostages pa ang nasa Gaza sa ilalim ng militanteng grupong ito ng Palestine. Samantala, bilang pagganti ng Israel, may 41,000 na ang namatay sa Gaza Strip at nagbunga na ito ng isang krisis pansangkatauhan. Ayon kay Gutierrez, ang pag-uutos ng mga sibilyan na lumikas ay hindi paraan upang iligtas sila kung wala naman silang mapupuntahang silungan.
There is something fundamentally wrong in the way this war is being conducted. Ordering civilians to evacuate does not keep them safe if they have no safe place to go and no shelter, food, medicine or water. And no place is safe in Gaza and no one is safe. International law is unambiguous. Civilians everywhere must be respected and protected, and their essential needs must be met, including through humanitarian assistance. All hostages must be released, and I strongly condemn all violations of international humanitarian law in Gaza.
Ang giyera sa Gaza ay pinangangambahang mauuwi sa ganap na labanan sa buong rehiyon, lalo na't nakisali na rin ang Iran sa kaguluhan. Dahil dito, umapila rin si Gutierrez sa Israel at Hezbollah na respetuhin ang kaligtasan at seguridad ng UNIFIL peacekeepers sa Southern Lebanon. May Zaragoza para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagwagi si Tunisian President Kais Saied para sa kanyang ikalawang 5 taong termino sa isang landslide victory. Ayon sa Independent High Authority for Elections, nakuha ni President Kais Saied ng mahigit 70% ng boto sa eleksyon nitong linggo. Gayunpaman, isa ito sa mga eleksyong may pinakamababang turnout sa kasaysayan ng bansa na umabot lamang ng 27% na bumoto. Nakuha ni Saied ang pwesto noong 2019 sa ikalawang halalan matapos ang Arab Spring protest na nagpabagsak kay Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. Simula noon, sinuspinde ni Saied ang parlamento at sinuportahan ang isang referendum na nagbigay sa kanya ng malawakang kapangyarihan. Marami ring mga disidente at oposisyon ang pinaaresto niya at nananatiling nasa kulungan na may limitadong access sa kanilang mga pamilya at legal na representasyon.
Nakatakdang magpulong sina Finnish President Alexander Stubb at Chinese President Xi Jinping sa isang state visit sa China mula October 28 hanggang October 31. Pag-uusapan ni President Stubb at Xi ang bilateral relations pati na rin ang digmaan sa Ukraine at iba pang issue sa seguridad. Ang Finland at China ay kasalukuyang dumaraan sa isang maselang diplomasya mula noong nakaraang taon. Noong Oktubre ng taong 2023 ay nagkaroon ng issue ang dalawang bansa dahil sa isang cargo vessel na nakarehistro sa Hong Kong na nakasira ng Baltic Connector gas pipeline.
Nanawagan ng ceasefire ang Hezbollah at ayon sa U.S. State Department, ito ay senyales na nasa depensiba na ang militanteng grupo. Emmy Kapilita-Roja po para sa balita.
Sinabi ni State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller noong Martes na ang panawagan ng Hezbollah na magkaroon ng tigil putukan ay hudyat na humihina ng pwersa nito at nawawala na ng bentahe laban sa Israel.
So first of all, I did see these reports that Hezbollah now wants a ceasefire. And
delinked from Gaza.
Yeah, delinked from Gaza, that they just want a ceasefire on its own terms. And I think my initial response to this is, where have they been for a year? For a year, the world has been calling on Hezbollah to stop the attacks across the border into Israel. And for a year, Hezbollah said they would not do it unless there was a ceasefire in Gaza. They linked the two when the international community was saying, stop the fighting. And Israel was saying, if Hezbollah stopped attacks across the border, Israel would stop its attacks in response against Hezbollah. So for a year, you had the world calling for this ceasefire. You had Hezbollah refusing to agree to one. And now that Hezbollah is on the back foot and is getting battered, suddenly they've changed their tune and want a ceasefire. I think it's not surprising given the situation they find themselves in.
Ngunit sa isang televised address, pinanindigan ni Hezbollah Deputy Leader Naim Qassem na nananatiling malakas ang kakayahan ng grupo at nakatutugon sa pag-atake ng Israel sa kabila ng masasakit na atake nito noong mga nakaraang linggo. Sinabi rin ni Qassem na sinusuportahan nito ang nais ni Speaker of Parliament Nabi Berri na isang kaalyado ng Hezbollah na isulong ang ceasefire. Samantala, tiniyak ni Miller na nakikipag-usap ang US sa iba't ibang mga manlalaro sa political spectrum ng Lebanon sa panahong may posibilidad na magkaroon ng bagong presidente ang bansa.
So we are having conversations with a number of different players inside Lebanon, and not only are we having conversations with them, our allies and partners from inside the region and from outside the region are having those conversations, and oftentimes we have sort of intermediaries to talk to individuals inside Lebanon. Those are ongoing. I don't think it's productive for me to read them out publicly.
Binuhay ng opensiba ng Israel laban sa Hezbollah sa Lebanon ang balak ng ilang nangungunang Lebanese politicians na punan ang 2 taong kawalan ng presidente nito. Ito ay upang gisingin ang paralisadong estado sa gitna ng lumalalang kaguluhan sa rehiyon. Emmy Kapilita-Roja para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ilang oras bago tumama si Hurricane Milton sa Florida, lubog na sa tubig ang mga bahay, kalye, pati mga bangka ng hagupitin ng bagyo ang Yucatan Peninsula ng Mexico. Si Marjorie Quintos para sa balita.
Ayon sa Mexican Meteorology Service, ang malakas na pag-ulan dulot ni Bagyong Milton na nasa 75 hanggang 150 millimeters at hangin na nasa 180 hanggang 200 kilometers per hour ay nagtutuloy-tuloy sa buong Yucatan. Pinananatili ng lokal na pamahalaan ang orange at yellow alerts. Kinaumagahan, nagbukas na ang mga aktibidad sa paliparan ng Merida at sa kabisera ng estado. Samantala, dahil sa mainit na tubig mula sa Gulf of Mexico, si Bagyong Milton ay naging ikatlong pinakamabilis lumakas na bagyo sa kasaysayan ng Atlantic. Mula sa tropical storm, si Milton ay mabilis na naging Category 5 hurricane, pinakamakapangyarihan sa loob ng 24 oras. Ayon sa pinakahuling advisory ng National Hurricane Center noong Martes, bumaba na sa Category 4 si Hurricane Milton sa 5-step Saffir-Simpson scale. Subalit ito ay may maximum sustained winds pa rin na 155 to 241 kilometers per hour. Nananawagan ang mangingisdang si Ismael Valencia na huwag silang abandonahin ng pamahalaan. Anya, kailangan nila ang tulong upang kontrahin ang epekto ng bagyo at mga pagbaha tulad ng dengue at Zika.
En sí le pedimos el apoyo a la gente más vulnerable y sobre todo que fumiguen porque ahorita va a haber muchas enfermedades, mucho dengue, mucho Zika, no sé, muchas enfermedades. Entonces eso se le pediría a las autoridades, que no abandonen al puerto de Celeste.
Marjorie Quintos para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
At update po mula naman sa Orlando, Florida muli. Nag-iimbak na ng basic essentials sa mga residente roon habang papalapit ang Bagyo Milton. Mula sa Orlando, narito po si NET25 U.S correspondent Melissa Poltes.
On Tuesday, supermarket parking lots here in Orlando, Florida were extremely busy as residents purchased last-minute supplies ahead of Hurricane Milton's arrival.
I always have water. Like I said, this is for my daughter-in-law. I just stay prepared all year long. Clean your trees, pick up the stuff, and that way, you know, like this. It took us about an hour to get everything inside, and we're set. We are waterlogged. I mean, this hurricane, and anything can change, because when Helene came in, it was going right up to Tallahassee. Within 4 hours, it went to the side of it and, you know, spared Tallahassee for the most part. And it tore up where I was going to go. I was going to go to North Carolina.
Hurricane Milton is expected to expand in size today as it chugs past Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula en route to Florida's battered Gulf Coast. More than 1 million people have been ordered to evacuate before the monster storm arrives. Florida's densely populated west coast braces for landfall in the Tampa Bay area late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. The state is still reeling from the devastating Hurricane Helene less than 2 weeks ago. A direct hit on the bay would be the first since 1921, when the now sprawling Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater area was a relative backwater. The center forecasts storm surges of 10 to 15 feet along a stretch of coastline north and south of Tampa Bay. This will likely swamp low-lying areas. Forecasts of 5 to 10 inches or more of rainfall threaten flash flooding farther inland. Melissa Poltes from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nanawagan ng tagapagsalita ng White House si Karen Jean-Pierre sa mga residente ng Florida na daraanan ni Hurricane Milton. Anya, ang bagyo ay nasa Category 5 na. Si Pearl Rogacion para sa report.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ng U.S. National Hurricane Center na mabilis na naging Category 5 si Bagyong Milton bago lumapag at maminsala ang bagyo sa Florida. Nanawagan si White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre sa mga residente ng Florida na nasa daan ni Hurricane Milton. Hinikayat ni Jean-Pierre na makinig ang mga residente sa mga opisyal panlokal upang makapaghanda sapagkat ang oras ng paghahandaan niya ay ngayon.
Finally, the president was briefed yesterday and again today on the potential impacts of Hurricane Milton, which forecasts to become a Category 5 storm and make landfall Wednesday on the western coast of Florida. As with Helene, FEMA and other federal agencies are actively pre-positioning life-saving resources in advance of the storm, and earlier today the president approved Governor of Florida's request for an emergency disaster declaration, which unlocks additional federal resources to help the state respond to the storm. To everyone in the path of Milton, the time to prepare is right now. Visit ready.gov or go download the FEMA app to make a plan today. The time is right now. Please, please, please listen to local officials. It could save your life.
Ayon sa Miami-based forecast, ang bagyo ay humahampas ngayon ng 1,175 kilometers southwest ng Tampa, Florida. May maximum sustained winds ito no 250 kilometers per hour. Nangako si Jean-Pierre na susuporta ang pamahalaan sa lahat ng maapektuhan ni Milton.
And so we have been in touch with state and local officials in order to be able to help the people of Florida who are going to be impacted, who were impacted certainly by Helene, and we're going to continue to certainly pre-position on the ground, and we're going to support. We're going to support the communities with whatever they need, and whenever. That is our commitment. That is our commitment to the folks who are going to be impacted. So we've been in touch with state and local officials in Florida, and we're going to ensure that we meet in advance what their needs are going to be.
Sa kasalukuyan, nagre-recover pa ang North Carolina, Florida at karamihan sa southern US mula sa pananalanta ng bagyong si Helene. Higit sa 200 katao sa 6 na estado ang namatay. Dahil dito, si Helene ay sinasabing pinakanakamamatay o deadliest na bagyo na humampas sa mainland US mula noong Hurricane Katrina na pumatay naman ng halos 1,400 mga tao noong 2005. Pearl Rugasyon para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, 100 raccoons dumagsa sa bahay ng isang babae sa Estados Unidos.
2 humanoid robots nag-date.
At sikat na P-pop group BINI nominado para sa Best Asia Act ng MTV Europe Music Awards. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik na mata ng Agila International.
This portion.
Eto na naman kami, nagbabalik kusina sa bagong season ng Lutong Daza.
Kung na-miss nyo kami, mas na-miss namin kayo. Kaya naman naghanda talaga kami ng mga bagong recipes na for sure mapapawaw kayo.
Samahan pa natin ang mga mahilig kumain ng mga celebrity guests tulad ni Karim, Alex De Rossi, Carly Martin, Christopher Rojas, Raisa Senon, Modern Nanay Con Cruz at marami pang iba.
Magkita-kita tayo sa kusina ng Lutong Daza. All new recipes, all new episodes.
Tuwing Sabado, alas 11 ng umaga, dito lang sa NET25.
Let's net together, sa NET25, sa NET25.
This Sunday, 12 noon, here on NET25.
Let's net together, sa NET25.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Sa isang bihirang pagkakataon ay direktang binalaan ni U.S. President Joe Biden ang China na dedepensahan ng Washington ang Taiwan sa alinmang pag-atake ng Beijing dito. Sa panahong ito na nakikipagdigmaan ang Russia sa Ukraine at lalong umiinit pa ang sigalot sa Middle East dahil po yan sa Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah at Houthi, ang isang conflict sa pagitan ng China at Taiwan sa Asia ay isang bagay na hindi kailangan na ng ating mundo. Subalit, dahil sa patuloy na pagpapadala ng China ng mga military aircraft at vessels sa paligid ng Taiwan, ay hindi maiwasang magtanong ang maraming tao. Naghahanda nga ba para sa isang giyera ang China upang ibalik ang Taiwan sa tamang geopolitical map na pinaniniwalaan ng Beijing na dapat matupad? Ang isinagawang Joint Sword 2024A ng China ay gumawa ng ingay sa buong mundo dahil muling ipinakita ng Beijing ang lakas ng kanyang militar. Ayon sa war experts, crucial o lubhang mahalaga at strategic ang Joint Sword 2024A. Isinagawa ito sa Northern Zone, Eastern Zone, Southeastern Zone dahil malapit ang posisyon na ito sa Taipei, Hualien at Bashi Channel. Anila, kung aatakihin ng China ang Taiwan ay kaagad nitong mapaparalisa ang communication sa tatlong nasabing zones. Nagsagawa rin po ang China ng drill sa Southwestern Zone at sa Western Zone. Kritikal ang mga lugar na ito dahil nandito ang imbakan ng langis at natural gas. Kung sisilipin po natin ang nakaraan ay maaalala natin na ang Taiwan ay nakilala bilang Formosa Island. Mga katutubong tao ang nakatira rito at naging bahagi ito ng Chinese Empire noong ika-17 siglo. Isinuko ng China ang Taiwan sa Japan dahil natalo ang Imperial China sa unang Sino-Japanese War at nananatili ang Taiwan sa ilalim ng kolonya ng Japan sa loob ng kalahating siglo hanggang matapos po ang World War II. Bagamat may internal conflict ang China at Taiwan, kinilala pa rin na maraming bansa ang Taiwan na bahagi ng China. Noong taong 1975 ay formal na inanunsyo ni U.S. President Jimmy Carter na puputulin nito ang pakikipag-ugnayan sa Taiwan at muli niyang itinatag ang diplomatic relations ng Estados Unidos at ng bansang China. Nagkaroon ng pagpupulong ang China at Taiwan noong February 11, 2014 na sinundan naman ng pagkikita ni Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou at Chinese President Xi Jinping. Bagamat nagkaroon ng serye ng pagpupulong at dialogo sa pagitan ng Taiwan at ng China, ay hindi maikakaila na nais ng Taiwan na maging independent, bagay na tinututulan ng Beijing dahil sa kanilang One China policy. Ito po ang dahilan kaya malimit ihayag ni Xi na darating ang araw at isa sa katuparan ng China ang reunification with Taiwan. Dahil sa mga pasaring na ito ay nagbabala ang Taiwan na posibleng magkaroon ng isang full-scale invasion ng China pagsapit ng taong 2025. Ito naman ay tinutulan ng Estados Unidos dahil ang Taiwan ay may mahalagang bahagi para sa ekonomiya ng mga Amerikano. Kaya po nagbitiw si Biden na handang depensahan ng Washington ang Taiwan sa anumang pag-atake ng China. Ang gulo sa pagitan ng Taiwan at ng China ay binabantayan ngayon ng maraming analysts. Marami ang nababahala na ito na ang susunod na giyera pagkatapos naman ng sa Middle East. At kung sakaling matuloy nga ito, wag naman po sana, ay posibleng ito na nga ang sinasabing giyerang magpapatigil sa galaw ng ating mundo.
Sa ibang balita, naranasan nyo na bang kabahan dahil sa maling akalang may panganib na magaganap sa inyong harapan? Isang halimbawa na rito ang naranasan ng mga gas station workers sa China. Kita sa video habang nagpapakarga kasi ng gas ang isang driver sa estasyon ay biglang umilaw ang ilalim ng kotse nito. Dito na nagmadaling kumuha ng fire extinguisher ang mga ito upang apulahin ang malaapoy na ilaw sa kotse. Pero matapos makita ng driver ang ginawang pag-apula ng mga apoy ng mga workers ay pinatay nito ang ilaw ng kotse. Ilang sandali ay napagtanto nila na hindi pala ito apoy kundi headlights lamang ng sasakyan.
Samantala, napatawag na lamang ang isang babae sa 911 hotline matapos tumagsa ang higit sa 100 raccoon sa kanyang bakuran. Ayon sa ulat ng Kitsap County Sheriff's Office, nagtipon-tipon ng mga hayop sa bakuran ng babae para manghingi ng pagkain mula sa kanya. Batay sa salaysay ng babae, halos 35 years na nitong pinapakain naman pala ang mga raccoons nang walang insidente nagaganap. Subalit ngayon lamang dinagsa siya ng maraming bilang ng raccoons sa kanyang bakuran. Tinukoy ng Kitsap County authorities na walang napaulat na nakagat o nakalmot na mga naturang hayop. Ang mga raccoons po ay kilala bilang rabies vector at carrier ng roundworm parasites. Inatasan naman ng Kitsap County Sheriff's Office ang homeowner na makipag-ugnayan sa Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife para asikasuhin ang problema nito sa bakuran.
Na-access na muli ang X sa bansang Brazil. Ayon sa desisyon ni Justice Alexander de Moraes, muling pinayagan itong mag-operate ang X sa Brazil matapos magbayad ang social media platform ng humigit kumulang 28 million reais o $5.1 million. Matatandang ipinag-utos ni Judge Moraes na i-block ang X dahil sa pagkalat umano ng platform ng misinformation hinggil sa 2022 Brazilian presidential election. Ang bansang Brazil ay isa sa mga pinakamalaking merkado ng platform na X sa buong mundo. Ito rin ang pinakamalaki sa Latin America na may estimated na 22 million X users. Nakatakdang isagawa ng Tokyo Metro ang pinakamalaking share listing sa Japan sa loob ng 6 na taon. Noong Lunes, itinakda ng Urban Railway Network ang presyo ng IPO nito sa hanggang 1,200 yen bawat share o humigit kumulang $8. Narito ang karagdagang detalye mula kay Leslie Gumarang.
Ang kasalukuyang presyo ng IPO ngayon ng Urban Railway Network na $8 per share ay bahagyang mas mataas kaysa sa mga naunang pagtataya ng kumpanya. Nangangahulugang maaaring makalikom ang metro ng higit sa $2.3 billion. Ang huling presyo para subway system na pagmamayari ng lokal at pambansang gobyerno ay itatakda sa katapusan ng buwan. Ang metro ay nagsimula noong taong 1920 nang itinatag ito bilang Tokyo Underground Railway Company. 7 taon ang nakalipas, binuksan nito ang kauna-unahang subway line ng Japan na nag-uugnay sa mga lugar sa hilagang bahagi ng sentro ng lungsod. Ngayon, susuriin ng mga mamumuhunan ang tamang panahon para sa IPO. Sinabi ng Japanese government na gagamitin nito ang perang makukuha sa pagbebenta ng metro upang bayaran ng mga bond na inilabas matapos ang lindol at tsunami noong taong 2011. Leslie Gumarang para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Marami pong mapapasana all sa susunod nating balita dahil nakakita na ba kayo ng 2 robot na nasa isang date? Kilalanin po natin sina Ameka at Azzy, ang 2 robots ng Engineered Arts kung saan ay kapwa itinampok ang kanilang wide range of facial expressions. Ayon sa Engineered Arts, si Ameka ang robot na itinuturing nilang the world's most advanced human-shaped robot. Paliwanag ng kumpanya, meron si Ameka na 32 actuators para magaya ang facial expressions ng kagaya sa tunay na tao. Samantala po si Azzy naman ay lalaking version ni Ameka. Kita po sa video ang demonstration ng 2 robot habang nag-uusap ang mga ito. Suportado ng ChatGPT-4o ang 2 robot bilang framework ng kanilang artificial intelligence conversational abilities. Ipinakita ng 2 robots ang kanilang reaksyon sa bawat mga jokes ng isa't isa. Cringe man daw o hindi. Ito ay bilang pag-aaral na rin ng kumpanya sa susunod na updates nina Ameka at Azzy.
Ipinag-utos ng Turkish court na tanggalan ng access ang instant messaging platform na Discord sa Turkiye. Ayon sa Information Technologies Communication Authority, ang desisyon ng korte na iba ng Discord ay dahil sa umanong mga krimeng may kinalaman sa child sexual abuse at obscenity. Napagpa siyang gawin ang ban laban sa Discord matapos lumantad sa publiko ang pagpatay sa 2 babae na isang 19-year-old na lalaki. Batay sa investigasyon ng otoridad, napag-alamang mas pinuri pa ng ilang Discord users ang ginawang pagpatay ng lalaki sa mga biktima na pinagsimula naman ng public outrage sa Ankara. Magugunitang inalis din ng Russia ang access nito sa Discord dahil sa paglabag ng plataporma sa Russian law.
Nominado ngayon ang P-pop girl group na BINI para sa kategorya ng Best Asia Act ng 2024 MTV Europe Music Awards. Makikipagtapatan ang BINI sa ibang mga nominees sa award kagaya na lamang po ng K-pop girl group na Elite, Indonesia's Mahalini, Malaysia's Mazdo at Japan's Sakura Zakaz 46. Kikilalanin naman sila ng kauna-unahang grupo ng mga Pilipino na makakapag-uwi ng award kung ito ay kanilang makukuha. Kasunod ito ng pagkapanalo ni Sarah Geronimo noong 2014 at James Reid noong 2017 naman sa MTV Emma Best Southeast Asian Act. Dagdag pa rito ay tampok rin ang BINI sa website sa Grammy para sa listahan ng 12 rising girl groups to know now. Ilan sa mga hit songs ng grupo ay ang mga kantang Pantropiko, Salamin Salamin, Cherry on Top at Carrera. Samantala, binubuo naman ang grupo ng 8 miyembro na sina Aya, Colette, Maloy, Gwen, Stacy, Mika, Joanna at Sheena.
Matapos ang matagumpay na Her God's World Tour ni Olivia Rodrigo ay itinanghal naman siya bilang Touring Artist of the Year ng Billboard. Kasunod ng pagkilala ay ang nakatakda ng live performance sa Publications Live Music Summit and Awards na gaganapin sa November 14. Kasama rito ang isang interview kung saan ay pag-uusapan ang kwento ng kanyang personal na buhay bilang isang matagumpay na singer. Bukod rito ay kinikilala rin si Olivia ngayon na isang multi-platinum selling at 3-time Grammy-winning singer-songwriter. Kamakailan lamang nang isagawa niya ang kanyang concert sa Pilipinas kung saan ay sinabi niya na ito ang pinakanatatanging show na kanyang ginawa. Dinagsa at dinumungdaman ito ng kanyang mga Filipino fans na hindi ininda ang siksikan at mahabang pila para mapanood lamang ang singer. Samantala, kabilang sa mga hit songs ni Olivia, ang Trader, Driver's License, Good For You, Happier at All I Want.
At scam alert naman po, lalo na yung mga mahihilig sa celebrities dahil ginagamit naman ngayon ng mga online scammers ang katauhan ng ilan sa mga tanyag na artists at singers para manloko at makapangbiktima. Kabilang sa listahan ng mga artists ay sina Sydney Sweeney ng pelikulang Anyone But You na madalas gamitin ng mga scammers sa crypto scams. Kasunod nito ay magbibigay sila ng link sa kanilang mga biktima para ma-install ang isang malware para makuha ang kanilang mga personal na impormasyon. Gumagamit rin ang mga ito ng deepfake videos na siyang magpapaniwala sa kanila na tunay na artist ang kanilang kausap. Dagdag pa rito sina Kylie Jenner na ginagamit naman para sa social media giveaway scams at pagbebenta ng mga peking Kylie cosmetic products. Kasama rin sa listahan ay ang mga artists na sina Scarlett Johansson, Taylor Swift, Anya Taylor-Joy, Sabrina Carpenter at Blake Lively.
Sa ibang balita, isang fair sa London ang naglalayong baligtarin ang daang taong gender imbalance sa mundo ng sining. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay sa mga babaeng artists ng kanilang sariling plataporma. Narito ang report ni Jane Kathleen Gregorio.
Ang Women in Art Fair na inilunsad noong nakaraang taon ay magbubukas sa Central Mall Gallery sa Miyerkules. Kasabay nito ang Frieze Week, isang pangunahing kaganapan sa kontemporaryang sining sa kabisera ng Britanya. Ayon sa fair director na si Jacqueline Harvey, sa nakaraang siglo sa industriya ng sining ay presyo ng gawa ng mga babae ay mas mababa kaysa sa mga lalaki. At ang antas ng oportunidad para mapansin ng mga gallery ang gawa ng kababaihan ay mas mababa kaysa sa mga lalaki. Ayon sa pinakabagong datos, ang sining ng mga babae ay kumakatuan lamang sa 3.3% ng mga benta sa auction sa pagitan ng 2008 at kalagitnaan ng 2022. Ito ay ayon sa 2022 Burns-Halperin Report na tumatalakay sa representasyon sa mga museo sa U.S. at sa merkado ng sining. Ang Women in Art Fair ay nagtatampok ng mga gawa ng humigit kumulang 150 artists. Kasama sa fair ang booths para sa galleries ng nakatuon sa kababaihan. Ang Women in Art Fair ay tatagal hanggang October 12. Jane Kathleen Gregorio para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nanalo ngayon ang US scientist na si John Hopfield at ang British-Canadian na si Geoffrey Hinton ng 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics. Pinarangalan ng dalawa na Nobel Prize in Physics for discoveries and inventions bilang pagkilala sa kontribusyon nila sa machine learning. Tinawag naman si Hinton na Godfather of Artificial Intelligence. Ito po ay matapos niyang maging laman ng balita mula nang umalis siya sa kanyang trabaho sa Google. Kasunod nito ay naging mas aktibo siya sa pagbabahagi sa halaga at sa masamang epekto ng teknolohiya na kanyang pinag-aaralan. Bukod dito ay isa namang Professor Emeritus sa Princeton University si Hoffield na siya namang gumawa ng associative memory na kayang magbalik ng larawan gamit lamang ang data. Samantala, paghahatian naman ng dalawa ang halagang $1 milyong bilang bahagi ng award na kanilang natanggap. At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Muli, ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines, Hurricane Milton regaining Category 5 strength as time runs out for millions to get out of the dangerous storm's path. As the catastrophic storm surges, expected to inundate homes and businesses.
Somewhere in this region is going to experience 10 to 15 feet of inundation above ground level. This is destructive, life-threatening storm surge, not a safe environment to stay in.
Floridians facing terrifying reality as neighborhoods could be completely wiped out.
This could be the worst storm hit Florida in over a century. Orders you should evacuate now. You should have already evacuated. It's a matter of life and death, and that's not hyperbole. It's a matter of life and death.
The news starts now. Time is running out as Hurricane Milton explodes back to Category 5 strength, putting millions in its catastrophic path. And this isn't just another storm. Meteorologists are warning that Milton could become one of the most destructive hurricanes ever recorded in U.S. history. Take a look. We start with this extraordinary view from space. Just hours ago, NASA astronauts aboard the Dragon Endeavour captured these images of Milton, showing the sheer scale of this monster storm. On the ground, the situation is increasingly dire. This drone footage from earlier today shows Interstate 75 packed with evacuees fleeing the storm's path. The National Hurricane Center warns this could be one of the most destructive hurricanes on record for West Central Florida. And some areas could see up to 18 inches of rain, creating what officials call a high risk of life-threatening flash and urban flooding in Tampa, Orlando, and Daytona Beach.
Milton has re-intensified this afternoon and is now an extremely dangerous Category 5 hurricane. We've had data from the Hurricane Hunter aircraft in here just in the last hour indicating that the maximum sustained winds are now back up to 165 miles per hour. Still expecting Milton to be a powerful major hurricane as it approaches the coast of Florida, bringing widespread impacts from both wind and storm surge, because the wind field of Milton, which you can see down here, the tropical storm force winds, the hurricane force winds, are going to about double in size by the time the storm reaches the west coast of Florida as we go through the day tomorrow and into tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. And in this purple area, basically from Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, Tampa Bay, Sarasota, Manatee County, somewhere in this region is going to experience 10 to 15 feet of inundation above ground level. This is destructive, life-threatening storm surge, not a safe environment to stay in.
Earlier today, Governor Ron DeSantis addressed the threat.
We can't control how strong or weak this storm will be when it hits the state of Florida.
We can't control the path of the storm. The only thing that we can control is the decisions that are made on an individual level to be able to protect yourself or your family. But now's the time where you have the ability to make the decisions necessary to keep yourself and your family safe. We urge you to execute your plan now. Let's prepare for the worst, and let's pray that we get a weakening and hope for the least amount of damage as possible, but we must be prepared.
Even wildlife is being evacuated. At the Florida Aquarium, staff are taking extraordinary measures.
We have 9 African penguins, and they are on our first floor in their home. But we do have temporary home built for them, and they've moved up to the second floor, well above any type of tidal surge that might affect the building. And then we have several animals around the building that are on the ground floor that have all moved to second floor locations and safe locations that we plan for things like this. So they have nice homes, even though they may be a little temporary.
For a closer look at this dangerous storm, NOAA hurricane hunters flew directly into Milton today aboard their aircraft nicknamed Miss Piggy, gathering crucial data to help track its path and intensity. And just moments ago, President Biden announced he's canceling his scheduled trip abroad to focus on the hurricane response.
As you know, I put out a statement this morning. I'm canceling my trip to Germany and to Africa. We're going to try to work those out later, but this could be the worst storm to hit Florida in over a century. And God willing, it won't be, but that's what it's looking like right now. Immediately approved the pre-landfall emergency declarations in Florida. It's the second one in a week, the second time in a week, and there have been 2 before that, by the way. I sent FEMA Administrator Criswell down to Florida yesterday to work intensively with the state and local partners. Most importantly, I've urged everyone currently located in Hurricane Milton's path to listen to local officials and follow safety instructions. You all have been reporting on the highways, shoulders being opened, everybody's heading out. And if you're under evacuation orders, you should evacuate now. You should have already evacuated. It's a matter of life and death, and that's not hyperbole. It's a matter of life and death.
What makes Milton so dangerous is its unprecedented rapid intensification. Climate scientist Dr. Daniel Guilford explains.
It's kind of like Milton was sitting at a red light and the light turned green and it was able to hit the accelerator and push it all the way down to the floor. It accelerated very quickly all the way up to a Category 5, which is sort of the physical limit that the atmosphere can allow a storm like Milton to grow to. And that wouldn't have happened in a world where the sea surface temperatures were cooler. These extremely warm sea surface temperatures provide the fuel necessary for the rapid intensification that we saw taking place to occur. So I grew up in the Tampa Bay area in Clearwater, Florida, and so this is my hometown that's under a threat. And when I was growing up there, I very much remember, the discussion of there was a storm out there sort of with Tampa Bay's name on it, and I think Hurricane Milton has the potential to be that storm. We haven't seen an intense storm sort of having a Tampa Bay region in its sights like this, really, for certainly as long as I've been alive and for almost a century now.
Now let's go to Melissa Potes in Orlando for more on how Central Florida is preparing. Melissa.
On Tuesday, supermarket parking lots here in Orlando, Florida were extremely busy as residents purchased last-minute supplies ahead of Hurricane Milton's arrival.
I always have water. Like I said, this is for my daughter-in-law. I just stay prepared all year long. Clean your trees, pick up the stuff, and that way, like this. It took us about an hour to get everything inside, and we're set. We are waterlogged. This hurricane, and anything can change, because when Helene came in, it was going right up to Tallahassee. Within 4 hours, it went to the side of it and, spared Tallahassee for the most part. And it tore up where I was going to go. I was going to go to North Carolina.
Hurricane Milton is expected to expand in size today as it chugs past Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula en route to Florida's battered Gulf Coast. More than 1 million people have been ordered to evacuate before the monster storm arrives.
So make the decisions now and execute your plan to be able to protect yourself and your family. No matter what property damage is done, we can rebuild homes, we can rebuild businesses, we can get people back on their feet, but only if they're safe and they survive the storm. We're not going to be able to bring people back who stay behind in 10 or 15 feet of storm surge. So you have time today. Time is running out, but you do have time today to make the decision to heed any evacuation orders and to do what you need to do to protect yourself and your family.
Florida's densely populated west coast braces for landfall in the Tampa Bay area late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. The state is still reeling from the devastating Hurricane Helene less than 2 weeks ago. A direct hit on the bay would be the first since 1921, when the now sprawling Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater area was a relative backwater. The center forecasts storm surges of 10 to 15 feet along a stretch of coastline north and south of Tampa Bay.
10 to 15 feet, so that's well above the height of any person, up to above a 1 to even getting into the second story of a building. And it's not just the water, it's not going to be filling up like a bathtub. This is water that's going to violently be pushed onshore from the Gulf of Mexico with destructive wave action on top of it. And you're going to have structural damage to buildings. Some buildings will wash away. Evacuation routes will be quickly cut off. We've lost people to storm surge in previous hurricanes who are trying to get out at the last minute and they drown in their cars. So please do not stay in these environments, in this unsafe area. Get out now while you still can.
Forecasts of 5 to 10 inches or more of rainfall threaten flash flooding farther inland. Melissa Potes for NET25 World News.
In Tampa, Florida, NET25 correspondent Robert Tapales brings us the latest details on the ground.
Highways leading out of the Tampa Bay area are filled with fleeing Floridians. Those that are well inland and away from evacuation zones are buying the wood and the supplies that are needed to ride out Hurricane Milton.
Just weeks after Hurricane Helene, people here are already stocked up with much of what they need. Helene affected but did not hit the Tampa Bay area directly. This is one reason why Floridian Lenny Caballero Harvey says people have been able to get everything they need ahead of Milton.
I feel like, especially for this one, because we had enough notice. You know, people have been very serious about how big this storm is going to be. I think overall people have just generally been very kind. No one's just hoarding a bunch of supplies. Yesterday I came here and there was stacks and stacks of plywood, and all of the workers here were just in good spirits, trying to just keep everybody really calm, and everybody, well, for the most part, I think, got what they needed.
For another resident, Daryl, whose family is used to hurricane warnings, he says watching the news advisory has always been their go-to when it comes to how much to prepare.
My normal hurricane prep is we pretty much watch the news, and if my wife says, hey, it's time to, we might need to board up, and we watch how much the wind speed is going to be, when is it coming at that point, and if they start advising, hey, start bringing everything in, that's, you know, we watch the news, and that's how we know when to start boarding up, when to start bringing things in, hanging on the walls and things outside.
Hurricane Milton is currently a Category 5 hurricane near the coast of Mexico. It is forecasted to face some weakening forces before landfall. Meteorologists, however, remind people that Hurricane Katrina itself weakened to a Category 3 before landfall and still had catastrophic impacts.
Robert Tapales, Tampa, Florida, for NET25 World News.
Southeast Asian leaders convened in Vientiane, Laos on Wednesday for a key ASEAN summit focusing on the escalating civil war in Myanmar. Thailand is expected to propose a new approach to finding a political solution given the lack of progress in the regional peace initiative. During the summit's opening, Laotian Prime Minister Sonaksai Siphandone emphasized ASEAN's resilience in facing various challenges, stating that the bloc has its own ways of addressing them.
และภัยพิบัติธรรมศาสตร์อาชญากรรมข่าวศาสตร์และอื่นพร้อมนี้สภาพภูมิศาสตร์การเมืองและภูมิศาสตร์เศรษฐกิจ
ก็ยังสืบต่อพันเปสลับซับซ้อนต่อหน้าสภาพการดังกล่าวอาเซียนต่อได้สืบต่อยึดมั่นในความเป็นเจ้าการของตนหัดเน้นการร่วมมือเพื่อรับมือกับสิ่งท้าทายเหล่านั้นอย่างทันการและมีประสิทธิภาพ
The civil war in Myanmar and tensions in the South China Sea are expected to dominate the discussions among ASEAN leaders, followed by meetings with global and regional powers. ASEAN has barred Myanmar's generals from its summits until progress is made and a political solution in Myanmar remains elusive. The military coup in 2021 triggered a nationwide uprising and civil conflict, displacing millions. And despite ASEAN's ongoing efforts, the ruling junta has refused to engage with its opposition, labeling them as terrorists. In response, Thailand has offered to host an informal consultation in December among ASEAN members to find new avenues for peace in Myanmar. According to Thailand's Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Nikornej Balankura, the initiative aims to complement existing ASEAN efforts and foster a unified approach to resolving the conflict. In addition to Myanmar, the summit will tackle other critical issues such as disputes in the South China Sea, climate change, and regional conflicts. Timor-Leste is also attending the meetings as a special guest. Meanwhile, here are the latest updates on the Middle East tensions. Israel is striking Hezbollah with devastating force.
Do you remember when your country was called the Pearl of the Middle East? I do. So what happened to Lebanon? A gang of tyrants and terrorists destroyed it. That's what happened. Lebanon was once known for its tolerance, for its beauty. Today, it's a place of chaos, a place of war. Israel withdrew from Lebanon 25 years ago, but the country that actually conquered Lebanon is not Israel, it's Iran. Iran, which finances and arms Hezbollah to serve Iran's interests at Lebanon's expense. Hezbollah has turned Lebanon into a stockpile of ammunition and weapons and a forward Iranian military base. Israel has decided to put an end to this. We've decided to do whatever is necessary to return our people safely to their homes. Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel also has a right to win, and Israel will win.
While Lebanon's military hasn't yet confirmed this, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that an Israeli airstrike killed Hezbollah's designated successor following the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah by Israel just days earlier.
We've degraded Hezbollah's capabilities. We took out thousands of terrorists, including Nasrallah himself, and Nasrallah's replacement, and the replacement of his replacement.
Hezbollah now faces its greatest weakness in years, but the Biden administration is worried that Netanyahu might launch retaliatory attacks on Iran over its recent missile strikes without close coordination with the U.S. In response, a scheduled visit by Israel's defense minister to the U.S. tomorrow has been delayed.
On Secretary Austin's bilat with Minister Gallant, we were just informed that Minister Gallant will be postponing his trip to Washington, D.C. Secretary Austin looks forward to seeing him soon.
President Biden has stressed that he doesn't support strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, as any Israeli attack on Iran's oil industry could cause gas prices to soar just before the November elections.
I think there are, if I were in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields.
Meanwhile, evacuations from Beirut are increasing.
The situation in Lebanon, terrible, very bad. But in North Lebanon, be all right. Be all right, but they start moving from area to area.
With hundreds more departing on commercial flights as the urgency to get them out grows. CIA Director William Burns warned of a potential regional escalation in the Middle East, despite noting that neither Iran nor Israel appears to be seeking all-out conflict. Speaking at the annual Cypher Brief Threat Conference in Sea Island, Georgia, Burns outlined the delicate situation.
The risk of a further escalation between Iran and Israel, even though we don't assess, at least, that either of those two leaderships right now is looking for an all-out conflict, but there remains that risk.
Burns emphasized that Israel is carefully considering its response to Iran's recent ballistic missile attack, but cautioned about the potential for unintended escalation.
Misjudgments that leaders oftentimes make in the Middle East, the stuff happens category, where what people think is a precise, targeted, military action ends up producing, lots of casualties. So the Middle East is a place where complicated stuff happens all the time. It's a place where pessimists always feel right at home. So you can see the potential for inadvertent collisions, misunderstandings.
On Israel's defense capabilities, Burns noted this.
The Israelis, with our support, it was a combination, I think, of good intelligence as well as strong integrated air defense, did successfully defeat the two very large-scale ballistic missile attacks that the Iranians have conducted. I think in some ways that did expose some of the limitations in Iranian military capabilities, but that's not to suggest that those capabilities are still not quite potent and something that not only Israel but the United States needs to take very seriously, too.
Despite heightened tensions, Burns, who played a key role in negotiating the 2015 nuclear deal, indicated that Iran hasn't shown signs of accelerating its nuclear weapons program.
Nuclear program, no, we do not see evidence today that the Supreme Leader has reversed the decision that he took at the end of 2003 to suspend the weaponization program. The Israelis, with our help, have been able to defeat the two very large-scale ballistic missile attacks on Israel. Second is the ability to amass enriched material, particularly the ability to quickly move to weapons-grade enriched material. And there, since the U.S. pulled out of the Comprehensive Nuclear Agreement, Iran is in a much closer position to produce a bomb's worth of enriched material for a single weapon.
On ongoing negotiations, Burns concluded.
What's at stake in Gaza is shaped by political will. In the end, it's not just about brackets and texts or creative formulas when you're trying to negotiate a hostage and ceasefire deal. It's about leaders, who ultimately have to recognize that enough is enough, that perfect is rarely on the menu, especially in the Middle East, and then you've got to make some hard choices and some compromises.
For Filipinos in Lebanon, the Philippine government is not planning to raise the alert level just yet, but the embassy in Beirut is preparing as if a mass repatriation could be ordered, according to the DFA.
Pangatlo, para magtagumpay alert level 4, kailangan yung host government magkikipag-cooperate, meaning i-release nila yung exit clearance. Wala silang exit. Ngayon, marami pang hindi ini-issue ng exit clearance. Kaya, kung sabihin namin mandatory evacuation, tapos papauwi natin pero hindi pala pwede makalis ng level. Ganun pa man, the embassy is acting as if we're in alert level 4, meaning naghanda ng mga repatriation flights.
For those unable to leave due to employers withholding their passports, the DFA encourages them to seek help from the Philippine Embassy in Beirut.
Pati yung embahada, under DFA, binibigyan sila ng financial assistance kung talagang walang pera doon. Tawag nila doon kapwa, sabi ni Ambassador, but kapwa fund. Pangalawa, yung pag-uwi, habang nagsasalita tayo mismo, right now, government officials, including myself kanina, we're briefing the President because we're looking for other options. Kung kailangan mag-charter ng flight, magpadala ng C-130, all options. And also, bigyan sila ng assistance para maengganyo umuwi. Kasi hindi yan maengganyo umuwi pag tingin nila pagdating dito, jobless.
And the news continues here on NET25 World News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang NET25. Matatag, matapang, matapak.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Google Google could be facing a major shakeup. The U.S. government is weighing significant penalties against the tech giant, with a potential breakup on the table. What led to this moment, and how could it impact the future of the company?
Google could be forced to break up. The US said Tuesday it may ask a judge to make the search giant sell off businesses like its Chrome browser and Android phone operating system. It all flows from an August court ruling when Google was found to be operating an illegal monopoly in search. Now the Justice Department is considering what penalties to demand, with a breakup among the options. Another would be to require Google to supply rivals with the indexes, data and models it uses for search functions. Officials could also seek to stop payments the firm makes to have its search engine pre-installed or set as the standard option for new devices. Google pays billions every year to companies like Apple to secure default status for its products. The proposed fixes will also extend to ensuring the firm doesn't build a new monopoly in artificial intelligence. Google denies all the charges against it and plans to appeal the case. But some of the possible remedies have previously been backed by smaller rivals like search engine DuckDuckGo. Reviews site Yelp, which sued Google over search in August, says spinning off its Chrome browser and AI services should be considered. Now the Justice Department is expected to submit more detailed proposals to the court by November 20th. Google will have a month after that to put forward its own ideas. Whatever happens, it's likely to shrink the firm's revenues and reshape how Americans use the internet.
A coalition of U.S. states has filed lawsuits against TikTok, alleging the app's addictive algorithms and inadequate content moderation pose risks to young users.
New lawsuits filed against TikTok on Tuesday accused the popular social media platform of harming and failing to protect young people. The lawsuits were filed separately in New York, California, the District of Columbia, and 11 other states. They expand Chinese-owned TikTok's legal fight with U.S. regulators and seek new financial penalties against the company. The states accuse TikTok of using intentionally addictive software designed to keep children watching as long and often as possible, and misrepresenting its content moderation effectiveness. They also argue that TikTok seeks to maximize the amount of time users spend on the app to target them with ads. Washington, D.C.'s Attorney General alleged TikTok operates an unlicensed money transmission business through its live streaming and virtual currency features. TikTok said it strongly disagreed with the claims, quote, many of which we believe to be inaccurate and misleading. TikTok provides safety features including default screen time limits and privacy defaults for minors under 16, the company said. The U.S. Justice Department sued TikTok in August for allegedly failing to protect children's privacy on the app. Other states previously sued TikTok for failing to protect children from harm, including Utah and Texas. TikTok on Monday rejected the allegations in a court filing. TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance is battling a U.S. law that could ban the app in the United States.
And finally tonight, a blood-red moon hung over Beirut last evening, casting an eerie glow over a city on edge. As this celestial phenomenon painted the night sky crimson, tension continued to build on the ground. The Israeli military issued fresh evacuation warnings for residents in Beirut's southern suburbs, specifically targeting areas including Haret, Reik tonight. As another sunset approaches, the residents of Beirut find themselves caught between the beauty of the heavens and the harsh realities on earth. From all of us here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported by